is out of shit. I mean, like, I got the like authentic white beater with motherfucking goddamn stains and shit on it. You know what I'm saying? It's that hot, nigga. God damn it. Shit. Um, I've been realizing again, in its experimentation, in its subject experimentation, the viability of yoga, specifically mantra. Well, pranayama and mantra, and then for tantra as well, because I utilize all three aspects of my meditation and or my yoga practice, and how literally different my day to day is versus meditating versus not meditating. Trying to meditate in a moment in which meditation, is necessary, or in a moment in which meditation is required in order to deal with that moment, versus meditating prior to that moment, and then meditating within that moment with prior fucking meditation experience in the day is entirely different. It's entirely different if I start my day meditating from the very get go than it is when I started meditating because the circumstances arise that requires me, in order to maintain some type of civility in the circumstances, to meditate. I'm realizing how important it is, and I'm also realizing that my experience with meditation over the period of time doesn't mean, it means even more so that I need to meditate more regularly, that I can't, scrimp on the meditation just because I have several years or decades experience in meditation. My body's used to meditating, and it's used to, my physiology is used to being meditated or in a meditative state and operating under a meditative state. My brain functions like, dude, if you watch my videotapes over the last couple of motherfucking goddamn weeks.
Are you gonna finish this?
You can finish it.
I don't want to. I put hot sauce in it.
Yeah, the hot sauce kill me. I gotta get some water, man. You drink all the fucking water.
I didn't drink all
But anyway, yeah, you'll see how discombobulated I tend to be at times, based upon the fact that I have like taken like weeks off, days off of meditating, and only meditating in certain circumstances that meditation is required in order for me to maintain civility, like on Hollywood Boulevard, or on a train, and so forth and so forth, so forth and so on. And I've made excuses for it. And this is the first morning in a long time that I woke up, and it's like a couple of weeks, and woke up and just started the morning off with meditation. And I'm realizing the difference in just starting my morning off with meditation. And then the tantric aspect is marijuana, because generally I get up in the morning and I go buy weed. I don't have, because I don't smoked all the weed that I had motherfucking before the morning. And then so I get to the fucking dispensary, smoke a joint on my way home, or a bowl, and then I'm like, oh shit, now I feel like meditating. I see the correlation between motherfucking marijuana use and meditation within me. Or just, pharmacological use, period, and meditation, but specifically marijuana. Like, I could take a sip of alcohol and it will induce a tantric process in which I'm gonna want to meditate my way through it. To activate the meditation. And I don't drink like that. Like, again, I'm a social drinker, but still, I do see this as being, and that's that Dunji context. And you got to read you got to really get, if you are a practitioner or follower of the North American tradition or of the Saudi Arabia tradition, dude, you do yourself no disfavor in excluding a fucking hadith from your library. I mean, you do yourself disfavor by excluding, but you do yourself no disfavor by including a hadith into your fucking library. I mean, as much hadith as you can get your hands on, because hadith is really an outside perspective of the culture through the eyes of the prophet. You know what I'm saying? And the Quran through the prophet. It gives you a different, and the religion, the deen itself too. And I was thinking about that this morning, that we haven't been bought a deen, so to speak. I mean, a religion, so to speak. We've been bought a culture. But since we were such a religious people at the time of being brought culture, it had to be brought through a religious, because even the culture itself wasn't brought via deen. Deen would come later. That we were brought first culture, but we was brought that culture in a religious package. And I want to explain that better, you know what I'm saying? And I really do see that. I see that the only way that we could have recepted the message in 1930 was if it was packaged religiously. That we were never going to get it if it was practiced as if it was packaged as a culture, because we were a deeply religious people embedded in a subculture covered by a culture that our subjugation to that culture was done through by way of its religion. So therefore, the only way to introduce a new culture to us was going to be by way of religion, because the culture that we are now inducted into has been induced and inducted and has been induced within us by way of religion. You know, speaking of the Christian religion, but it couldn't be the Saudi Arabian tradition. You know what I'm saying? It couldn't be the way that Islam is perceived within the Black Mason context, because that would have been entirely too abrasive for Black people to, 1930, to even adapt or to even accept or to assimilate. Or to assimilate. We wouldn't have been able to do that shit with that. But as far as, and that's the teachings of the master Ogxlyfe Muhammad, is that they were in that middle ground. You know what I'm saying? They still held that kind of religious aspect or feel to them that was more acceptable to Black people. That's what I'm saying. Allah is the best of planners. When you talk about Allah being the netager and Allah not being this mystery spook, but Allah being the netager, you being nature, that she understands her manifestation, her creation.
Did you take this off?
And what is adaptable and what they are capable of adapting or not adapting within any ethnic manifestation, and that includes, of course, the African American. And when you look at that in relationship to the context of the Quran, and where I'm not gonna wear these, I'm gonna change these. But you can wear yours and don't wear yours. But in relationship to the Quran saying that each nation will receive its own messenger, you know what I'm saying? And then the fact that we, as a people, were not yet a nation, and therefore didn't, you know what I'm saying, the need of a messenger was not applicable until we became a free nation. And in 1914 to 1930 starts establishing us as an autonomous nation within at least the objective framework of the netager. And the netager's like, oh, well, let's send him a messenger. And therefore, you know what I'm saying, a messenger is raised up among us, and therefore Elijah Muhammad is presented to us, calling for us to attain national identity, or at least cultural identity, or autonomy. And then prior to that was, you know what I'm saying, Noble Drew Ali telling you that Islamism was your culture and that your nationality was more. So, you know, I kind of like see the correlation. So here we go, you know what I'm saying? I started the day off of meditation and shit, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it grows. And the correlation between the netager, you know what I'm saying, and nature, and what is truly defined as Allah as far as the Quran is concerned. And see, like, when you talk to like Saudi Arabian, those of the Saudi Arabian tradition, they'll tell you, oh, one of the problems with Elijah Muhammad and Ogxlyfe Muhammad was they taught that the Bible was as valid as the Quran. But at the same time, those of the Saudi Arabian tradition will tell you that the God of the Quran is the same as the God of the Bible. But the God of the Bible, but the Bible is a misrepresentation of the God of the Quran. But yet they adapt the same God of the Bible as the God of the Quran. But the God of the Quran says, don't follow after the Christians and the Jews and be people of the book. But they adapt the God of the book, or the God of the people of the book, but yet reject the book altogether and tell you can't find any knowledge within that book, and that it is wrong to teach that that book has any validity when the very Quran tells you to read that book. I don't get that. I don't get that from the Saudi Arabian tradition. It's like all the fucking, oxymorons within their teachings is like they tell you to do one thing and then they tell you to do another. It's more of do as I do, not, what I'm saying? Do as I say, not as I do. Or do as I say, not as the text and the literature says do. Which is, what I'm saying, an entirely deviation from the purpose of even listening to you. Because the basis of why I should listen to you is the text and the literature. So if you're not adhering to the text and literature, maybe I should listen to you. Because you're not adhering to the text and literature. You're misrepresenting both the text and the literature. So therefore you are a misrepresentation of the text and literature. So therefore I should listen to you. Because you will be leading me astray. Maybe I should look back at the text and the literature and be like, okay, I'm cool on you. What you have is not our Islam. You could call it that, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Astaghfirullah if I say otherwise, that you can't call it that. Because according to the Quran, all people who choose all paths of Islam that are chosen therefore Allah. Allah is chosen for every path that every individual chooses and claims to be Islam. So I can't tell you, all I can do is give you my argument. That's jihad. That's what really what jihad is about. To establish your own particular, to defend the own particular path that Allah has given to you. That's all it's for. It's not to defile the path that is given for another, or to say that another's path is wrong, or it's just not right for me. And these are the reasons why it's not. And according to the text and literature given to me, and as observable phenomenon of nature, as according. I know, I sound confusing. I know. I've explained all this and shit, you know what I'm saying, in relationship to human physiology. Though. Outside of human physiology, nature is not God. Just like nature is not designed or not designated for the purpose of going from plant to plant or from flower to flower in order to collect pollen and collect that pollen or residuals of that pollen and make hives. But it is designated to do that in the physiology when it's represented or manifested in the physiology of bees. This is the same thing in relationship to nature and when it's manifested in the physiology of man. Therefore, man is God. Because the only time that nature is God is when it's manifested in the physiology of man. I know it's complex. But this is the teachings of the Gnostics. You know what I'm saying? So, in the Sufi Muslims, this is their teachings. This is, Fana and so on, Mithra and so on, and Fitra and so on, all these other Arabic words that are used to describe, you know what I'm saying, conditions and circumstances that are described in other mystic or Eastern philosophical or Eastern-based philosophies and religious ideologies and mystic practices. So at the end of the day, I'm doing what's right according to the literature, you know what I'm saying? Shit, if I'm reading these chapters right, you know what I'm saying? Shit. And you're going to have to show and prove to me I'm not. You just can't vehemently come up to me and start like pointing your finger at me and yelling really loud and saying you're saying it wrong or you interpreting it wrong. You're going to have to show me you're going to have to show and prove to me by ways and actions, observable phenomenon in nature, you know what I'm saying, that I'm wrong. If you can't do that, then, you know what I'm saying, I can't accept I'm wrong. Now, if you can do that, I can accept, okay, that shit, I was wrong. Let me rethink this shit. Good morning, Facebook. We about to get out of here.